Hi, I'm Sydney Bowles here with Burlington Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Eric Conti, here for our monthly Superintendent Update. Eric, welcome.
Thank you, Sydney.
How you doing?
Doing well. It's Thursday.
It is Thursday. Thanks for taking the time to come in.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to dig in. The first question that I have for you is that this is the first time we've spoken since the school committee election. We have a new person, Jeremy Brooks, on the school committee. How's it been going? Have you met with him one-on-one? Is it a big change, small change?
We have met one-on-one prior to the election. We haven't met one-on-one since. Certainly we'll do so as time goes by. Communities can't work without community volunteers, so any change in a school committee is something that the committee itself will work through. Want to recognize Carl Foss's service. I think, again, we can't function as a community without that, so it takes a lot for someone to put themselves out there, so I want to recognize that. And also want to thank Jeremy Brooks for putting himself out there and running, so I think that's those are all good things. Again, the phrase I like with any sort of group is they sort of form, storm, and norm. And I think we're in the forming part of the relationship, and the storming doesn't necessarily mean disagreeable. It just means we all have to get used to working with one another, and then we'll start to operate around norms. I think the biggest thing school committees do for me is obviously they create policy, they support budgets, they are who I report to. But I think the most important thing they do for me is communicate to me the values of the community, and then my job is to operationalize those values. And I think Jeremy's voice in those values conversations will be important and effective.
Cool. Sounds like an exciting time.
Yeah.
So the last time we spoke, we also touched a little bit on a new food service company that had recently started in the schools.
Mm-hmm.
You took a moment, I think, to specifically thank the food service workers who are sort of navigating sort of a change, just as you said with the school committee. So I want to check in with that. How's it been going? Are we reaching equilibrium now?
Again, forming, storming, norming. So I think you caught me in the storming part and with change, and I think we this month have seen more of a norming. I think the cafeteria workers are continuing to work really hard. I think the management company is getting a better idea of what our students like and their preferences and their choices, and I think there's been good support by the company, and I think we're making progress. So I'm pleased, and Bob Cuna, our director of operations, did speak to the school committee and made sure he thanked the cafeteria workers at our last meeting, so I would really echo his thoughts. He's spending much more time in the cafeterias and with those individuals than I have in the last few weeks.
And any updates on hiring by any chance?
I mean, for the cafeterias specifically?
Yeah.
I know we had jobs posted. I'm not sure the result of that.
Okay.
But we had also expanded hours for
Okay.
our existing employees, and I believe there are many of those employees taking advantage of the additional hours. So I can get the information back to you in terms of who we've hired. That wouldn't go through my office, but I can check on that.
My apologies on that.
No, that's fine.
So it is budget season. Town
Yep.
meeting's coming up. The process, as you've laid it out, and correct me if I have this wrong, is that you work with the town to come up with a rough estimate for the kind of budget that we're going to be looking at. It's like a 3.75% increase over last year's budget. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you work with all the folks in the schools, the departments, the principals to come up with what everybody wants budget that's likely going to be higher than that, and then kind of whittle it down. It's designed to be kind of a process that gets to where you need to be. Is it a painful process?
Painful in a sense that I have to say no to people who are making sincere requests. I don't think anyone is asking for something that they don't need. And you mentioned at the start of the process, it's really not just me, it's the town's financial team, and I think the town does a very good job and is very generous with all departments, including schools. So I think we're starting from a position of generosity, and what they ensure is that year to year, we just can continue to grow and maintain services. So we always talk about maintaining services and programs as a starting point, and that's again across all town departments and schools. And then that's really where those guidelines come from. And I think it's easier for us to work towards a guideline and then figure out where we are at the end. Allowing everyone to put in whatever they need was a recent addition, and a recent 10 years ago now, because the school committee really didn't want me to narrow down. They wanted to hear about it, so I think that was really why that process started. And again, a lot of the initial feedback way back when was there was too much agreement, and so they wanted to see what we were eliminating, and so that's why that process came about. So yeah, some of it is challenging and difficult because many things are requested year after year and we can't fit them in, and so we have to continue to make do. And then also we've level funded supplies and materials for the last 4 or 5 years, and with inflation and everything else, cost of materials going up as everyone is experiencing personally, that's becoming, we're not going to be able to do that any longer. So we're going to have to make sure we add cost for that. And I mean, the cost of a box of paper has gone up, whatever, 40%. We have to figure that out.
So maybe to use the metaphor that you used earlier, it's that storming piece of the forming, storming, and norming. It's not bad. It's maybe a little tense. Is that, I don't know if that's too, if I'm assuming there.
Yeah, I mean, you always want to give someone sort of what they need to do their job successfully.
Yeah.
And the first thing you want to give them is the opportunity to ask. So
Yeah.
I think we're giving everyone the
Yeah.
opportunity to ask, and then having to make a judgment at the end of that is, in order to fit a longer term financial plan for the community, I think makes sense.
So one of the things that I was struck by in listening to some of those requests that were made in that process was from principals who were asking for additional mental health support. And then there was also a conversation about adding a diversity, equity, and inclusion staff person on the team. So how have those positions carried through the budget process? Where are we now with that?
And it's so funny because we talk about things in silos, but I would say mental health is diversity, equity, inclusion work. They are synonymous, but just to be specific, there is a district DEI salary that remains in the budget. It's unfilled at this point, and what I've been conveying is that I want our new assistant superintendent, Dr. Lisa Chen, to come on board, and for us to make sure we define that position clearly. So we want to give whoever we hire into that position the greatest chance of being successful moving forward. So that's a position that'll work very closely with the assistant superintendent, and I don't want to bring someone in obviously without her input. So I know people are impatient about that. It is a commitment. I'm very committed to that position, but I just want to make sure we have folks in place. In regards to student adjustment counselors, social workers, I think we have been fortunate to keep one of those requests in the budget. People get sometimes frustrated with me because I don't know exactly where that position is going to be placed. It's a salary. More than likely it'll be at the middle school because that's where our numbers are going to be sort of the greatest, and we're seeing a lot of the impact coming out of the pandemic. So I think highly likely it's going to be at the middle school, but again, our director of mental health, Chrissy Concession, is going to look at that from a district perspective and make sure she has the resources she needs to be successful.
Great. I guess this is also kind of DEI, my next question. You have been making the rounds talking to different folks about this potential newcomer academy that's been being dreamed about maybe from the high school perspective. So this is for students who are in Burlington who maybe have limited or interrupted formal education, who might have different language skill needs, and who are maybe struggling in a traditional school structure. So we actually want to play for you a clip of you. I'm going to play you to you in a recent Ways and Means Committee meeting. This is from April 12, explaining this project. Let's roll the clip.
We have a college preparatory high schools, and we have many students who we are obligated to educate coming in with very little formal education. So we might have a 15, 16, 17-year-old, I'm going to call them young man, who has, I'm going to say, lived an adult life already, coming to Burlington, working full-time and trying to come to school at the same time and might have been formally educated to the second grade where they came from. Placing that student in a trigonometry class or a AP US history class or any sort of class, you can imagine as being very difficult if you placed yourself in that same place.
As you've gone around making the case for this new program, I guess, or expansion of existing programming, how's that been received?
Yeah, first of all, I'm not sure that guy knows what he's talking about, so I'm glad you're asking me. So it's been received, I think well. I think the community wants all of our students to be successful, and our student population has been changing. I'm not always sure that those changes are easily recognized because not all of our traditional and very public community organizations reflect what our classrooms look like. So, and again, that's no different than any other town. That's not a judgment. I'm just sort of mentioning that. We have, I think, 57 languages spoken at our high school. That diversity is a strength. It's an asset that we have. But over the last 4 or 5 years, we've seen the languages represented change. I think Spanish has moved into our top second language, and the vast majority of those Spanish speakers for us are coming from Central America, and we are seeing that many, as you mentioned, don't necessarily have formal education prior to coming here. They're still school age, they're still obligated to be our students, and many of them are working full-time in addition to being in high school, and the traditional high school day doesn't seem to fit them. I call it a newcomer academy. More than likely, it's not just going to be newcomers. What we're really talking about is an alternative high school, an alternative program. We have an evening alternative program already that's very successful, and we're really talking about expanding some sort of program during the day so that our students who have the need, and typically they're juniors or seniors, if you want to think of their older students who have very particular needs to come in so that they stay in school and don't drop out. So it's a new challenge for us.
This is an unusual question, maybe. In thinking about the needs of these students, in talking to the educators that work with them, does it make you see Burlington in a new way, or see the school system in a new way through their eyes?
In a sense, I guess it does. They feel very fortunate to be here. They feel very grateful to be in school. It's safe. There are meals provided. It's again, many of them have lived adult lives already just to get here, and they work really hard. And again, I never want to have a deficit conversation. They contribute wonderfully to our overall school culture and student experience. But they're very grateful to be here. And we recently, 2 of our employees, including Carrie Lamprey, our Director of English Learning, went to Guatemala over, and Miley Castro, one of our other employees, went to Guatemala over April break. That would be a great special presentation for BCAD, and they actually went to the village where many of our students are coming from.
That's great.
And met their mothers. Wow. Because the mothers tend to stay home. And
what an amazing experience.
Yeah, so they would have some pictures. I think it would be a great show for you to feature, and really we're, as a learning community, as a school district, really trying to get to know these students and where they're from so we can be more successful with them.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait to learn more about that.
Yeah.
Also, another exciting thing happening. Just the other day, there was a really exciting presentation for the school committee on the computer science programming. Some really exciting work there. I wonder if you wanted to talk about those developments a little.
I'll talk about it briefly. Again, I think another great topic to follow up on is we really have worked hard as a district over many years to have a computer science pathway from elementary already through high school. I think for many years, computer science was thought of as a separate skill or sort of a niche, class or elective, and really trying to bring that more into a new literacy for all of our students, all of our graduates. So you're seeing computer science courses being developed in the art department, in the business department, in the math department, which is traditionally does computer science, in the science department. And we're seeing more and more kids want to take those courses and a higher demand for those courses. So that was one part of the presentation. The other part of the presentation was really something that is special in Burlington, which is the reverse internship. We find ourselves in the middle of all of these tech companies really trying to take advantage of it. We have a senior internship program. Many of the job sites here are secure, so we can't send students out to those job sites, but we've been very successful and very grateful for having a lot of those local engineers willing to donate their time and come in and work with our students here at school. So that's why it's reverse internship, because the students are here and we're bringing the professionals into high school, not sending the students out.
And they're paid a lot of the time, seems like.
Well, there's a state program, again, that we're taking advantage of,
Yeah.
and I think we can pay them $15 an hour up to, I think it was, 100 hours or something like that, or so. I think that was something, and again, our computer science teacher at the high school, Shireen Terrell, has been just an incredible resource and connector for our kids, has really expanded the program, and so we want to keep expanding that, and we think it's something that's also scalable outside of Burlington for other districts too. So I do think it's something that the district should be really proud of, and a lot of people have put a lot of work into.
Cool. That's it for my questions. Is there anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
No, it's a busy month, and as you said, it's our focus. My focus for the next few weeks is on budget and preparing for next year. And again, as always, everyone who contributed to the budget process, especially the subcommittee from Ways and Means, because our budget is over 200 pages and it's really detailed, and they spend a lot of time volunteering, getting back to where we started, where a lot of our public organizations like schools can't function without those critical community members. So I want to make sure I thank the Ways and Means, especially the subcommittee members, for working with us, and hopefully we'll have a successful town meeting and get ready for next year.
All right, Dr. Conti, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.